works. Joining me now, Harry Tangy, former police sergeant, and knows a thing or two about firearm policing. Good afternoon to you, Harry.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very good. Nice to have you with us. You bring an expert opinion and view to this, of course. Just give us your overview, firstly. I mean, you just probably heard the last text I read out there. I've got about 100 of those saying pretty much the same thing. You know, this should never, ever have got as far as a magistrate's court, let alone a Crown Court. That in itself was error number one here.
There is so much to talk about, isn't there? But I will try to keep it concise. I've always said to people over my 30 years that it's a court of law, not necessarily a court of justice. And that's the scary thing, that anything could happen in a criminal case. Yes, we knew there was reporters' restrictions for the fairness of the trial. We know now that the defence tried to bring bad character reference. We can use that. So if somebody's done something several times in the past and there's a new case, we can actually disclose that to the jury now, or magistrates if it's a lesser offence. But of course that wasn't allowed because the judge said, you can see on the legal side, the judge said, well, the officer didn't know it was Kaba. He didn't know he had a balaclava in his pocket and gun residue on his arms, and that the car had been involved in not only a nightclub incident 6 days earlier, but in a shotgun incident with 3 masked men literally the day before. But they say, well, the police didn't know it was Chris Kaba, so that shouldn't make any difference. It's all about how he reacted to the foreseen threat at the time. So you can sort of see that. But when the juries when the public get to know the full truth, they're like, oh, we get it. And that's the problem. You've got one-sided information. You've got bereaved family. You've maybe got people with very biased views in their minds. You've got black communities who are believing the rhetoric that comes out non-stop. And all the statistics show they are in no more danger than any white person in relation to police shootings, death in custodies, and so on.
Or to a member of the public, Harry. You know, this was not a weaponless crime.
Yeah, well, I did vehicle interceptions. I was, and just like the officer in the case, I don't like saying his name too much because I don't want to publicise his name. Yeah. And there's another thing, isn't there, Ian, about the BBC? So sure, they wanted the name released, and look, this poor guy's getting literally threats from gangs and prices on his head and all this sort of rubbish. So, but you're quite right. I was a farms tactics advisor. I was an operational farms commander, just like this officer. I had 23 years experience with guns, and I wasn't in the Met, but I certainly met some challenging points, and I'm very nearly, let's say the slack was pulled on my trigger on 2 separate occasions. So it is there for the grace of God, and that you're in a position where you do have to fire. The training. The job itself is easy for these police officers. They're used to it. They do scenario after scenario after scenario, low level, mid-level, high level, just so you're not going in all guns blazing. Is it innocent? Is it someone with mental health? Is it someone who's just reacting in a way that they autistic? And they will do this. So that's the easy bit. And so that vehicle would have been well contained before anyone came out, and they will be going into areas that would have been relatively safe. The problem is when that vehicle in front gets some purchase and gets some momentum in and out. And those, like you say, Ian, those critiques who say there wasn't even a gun, I'm more than happy to, you can stand just a few feet in front of my car and let me drive over you because you've got nowhere to go. And let's see how you get on, shall we?
Absolutely. In terms of where this goes next, of course, you know, the officer is reinstated, but that for him, that's not the end of this, is it? I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, the curious nature of revealing the name of the officer, which that in itself was a debate when it happened. I think we might have even spoken at the time, Harry, because that's not usual. But the judge deemed that in this case it was the right thing to do. That would have caused an enormous amount of distress to this officer's family as well. The pressure, the idea that this was some sort of very quick kangaroo court but in favour of the officer and the establishment was nonsense. This was a 2-year process. This guy's career and his life in his freedom was on the line for that time, and so was his family.
And I've spoken to officers who've been involved in this and death in custodies where they've faced manslaughter charges in court cases too. They are a shadow of their former selves. It affects their families. It destroys people. I can't speak for this particular case. I haven't spoken to him personally. I've spoken to people very close to him. So I'm not going to comment on him. But you can imagine, you're there for 2 years, waking up, going to bed every night, wondering in your mind whether you're going to be waking up in a cell, hearing the noises from outside from gang members who want to kill you in your prison. And you've got to go there for life, because you're going to be there for life if you're done for murder. And you're just hoping that everything's fine. It's the process is the sentence.
Yeah.
That is the punishment. And these people are destroyed. And their whole bitterness about justice, about the system. Yes, he was not guilty in the end, but the process was unjust to get there. People are shrugging their responsibilities to make a decision. CPS should have stopped this at the start. Is it in the public interest? No. Is it in the interest of a few people who shout the loudest, but don't actually have much to say? Yes, according to them.
Yeah.
Do you have a London mayor who just wants to cling on to the most votes and look popular and has absolutely zero integrity for the actual reader? Even his latest message didn't mention anything about the officer and the problems he's gone through.
And he's essentially the police and crime commissioner of the city.
Well, exactly. He's in charge of them. So police officers are very much feeling as second-class citizens, and they're running for the hills.
Yeah.
25% reduction in applications for firearms positions. And I think that's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, I sense you're right. And I think it's just worth saying finally on that point, Harry, I think it's 0.05% of firearms incidents that
One in every 2,000 authorised jobs. 0.05%. One in every 2,000 authorised firearms incidents. Not incidents, authorised firearms incidents where they believe that those officers could be in imminent danger and may need a weapon to protect themselves or others. 2,000. And we get certain members of society saying that they're being headhunted and targeted. It's disgraceful, and it needs to start, and it needs strong leadership to make sure the message is clear and out there.
Indeed. Harry, it's always great to get your view on these things. It is a highly qualified position as well, a former officer of many years' experience at the real cutting edge of policing in all the areas that he just referred to. Harry Tanguy, former police sergeant, with us here on the programme. 0344 499 1000.